Hey everyone, trying to make you guys a quick video on voices from World War One, but this is one of my favorites. I'm not a big postmodern or modernism fan, but I do love the Georgian poets and what comes out of that as the war, what I call the war poets. It's always been something I've really loved to read, which may sound crazy, but they just are full of emotion and impact. So I'm not going to give you really a history of World War One because that is something that is so well covered and you can just find by a quick Google search of what happened if you don't remember. But it is important to remember that, as the Norton said, it was a struggle that shook the world. Over 8.5 million lives were lost by the end of the conflict, and in Britain specifically, 780,000 British men were lost. So that's almost an entire generation. Think about the impact on families, the workforce, all those stuff. They're all just gone. So these poets, these soldiers are having to find a way to express the horror of what they're seeing, this brand new form of war that no one else really seems to believe in. Because back home, everyone's still thinking like in the romantic, almost rosy glassed ideal of war, and that is not what World War One was. There is gas and tanks and massive bombing, and we know like the Western Front, where it was just mud pits with barbed wire, and people were just dying left and right, and it was just awful. And they had nothing that could express that for them. And when they're hearing from home, everyone's still like, oh, everything's grand. You're out there doing like charges and protecting your homeland. And they're like, no, this is nothing that you can understand. So they had to find new ways of writing that didn't really fit or hadn't really been used before because this experience didn't fit anything that had ever gone through before either. So it's really fun with this because we can observe how creative minds were searching for expression uh, from like the Norton Handbook. And one thing I do want to note is that Norton says in like the teaching handbook, and I love this phrasing, so I can't find a better way to say it myself. But they say the work of the poets served as a wake up call and a warning to the civilian population back home. While in the great conflict's immediate aftermath, the writings of the memorist joined with the poetry in carrying on the anti war mission to forestall such an event from ever happening again. So the poets are there to be like, hey, wake up, this is happening. But then they continue after those who survived, they continue afterwards to keep writing and keep trying to get people to understand we can't let this happen again. Obviously, we know that didn't work. We do have World War II and all the other modern conflicts going on, but they tried. They wanted people to know. We get graphic realism. They call it biting irony. They wanted to mimic the true chaos of the war in their ways of writing. And as you look at the introductions to all the poets in this unit, it's really important to pay attention because they discuss what each poet was great at and what they did and or developed, which helps you then embrace, enjoy, understand their poems better because you kind of know what to be looking for and what things are happening. There's a lot of information on Siegfried Sassoon, even though he's not like our main focus. We look at lots of them, but there's some background information that comes from his section that I do want to point out because I think it goes to everybody. All the poets saw the war in the front line as a completely alien experience that no one could ever understand unless they were there with them, which is why you get some poems like The Glory of Women. It's not necessarily anti-women completely. It's anti-anybody who was on the front line and still was saying this is a glorious event. You're blessed to serve your country in this way. So not exactly hating only on women just because they're women. They're hating on people who don't understand what it was really like and they weren't there, and yet they still paint it in these glorious images. They felt they didn't have any real sympathy from people, and we see that in Owen's Disabled, especially at the end, like, ooh, what a gut punch when he gets left outside in the dark and cold until someone remembers to wheel him back into the hospital because he's a quadriplegic. He can't do anything. They felt like there was no true sympathy. Once they did come home, it was like, okay, we're just going to kind of shut you in the corner and move on. So we really see a lot of that. We also see a lot of the poets looking at figures of authority as just completely discredited because as you get in your Sassoon introduction, and I just want to read it to you, he makes this statement. He says it's for on behalf of everybody. So he feels like all soldiers felt this way. And let's be real, there probably was a lot of feeling this way. He wasn't alone. He says, I'm making this statement as an act of willful defiance of military authority because I believe that the war is being deliberately prolonged by those who have the power to end it. I am a soldier convinced that I am acting on behalf of soldiers. I believe that this war, upon which I have entered as a war of defense and liberation, has now become a war of aggression and conquest. So that's part of what they're fighting is you told us it was going to be glorious. You tricked us into signing up. You're keeping the truth away from those at home so people can't possibly understand us. And hey, you're just using us to further your own ends. You don't really have noble intentions here. So that's kind of what's going around. And it sounds weird to say that this is a really enjoyable set of poetry because it's such a dark, hard concept. But the way they've done it is just beautiful in a way. And so I hope you can really embrace what's happening and look deeper into these poems.